everyone! I am ready now to listen to another artist which I have not heard before. This time it is Patti Smith, and I understand that she began her career back in the 70s in New York. And so I guess in terms of rock music, she's been around for quite a while. And the song that I'll be listening to is called Dancing Barefoot. And again, I don't know anything about the song, except I have been told that it was inspired by a tragic love story situation. So I expect to hear something to do with that. I don't know exactly how it's going to manifest itself, but I'll have my ears open to be listening to see what that might play into it a bit. So let's see how it goes.
I go and I don't know why I feel so ceaselessly. Could it be he's taken over me? I'm dancing barefoot, heading for a spin. Some strange music draws me in, makes me like some heroin. She is sublimation. She is the essence of thee. She is concentrating on he, the chosen of she. Here I go and I don't know why I spend so ceaselessly. Could it be he's taken over me? I'm dancing barefoot, heading for a spin. Some strange music draws me in, makes me come on like some heroin.
I know, I just did that. I stopped in the middle of the guitar. But I had to, because I was listening and I'm hearing this voice. It's a very deep alto voice, which is different from what I've heard. It's so funny because so much of the music I've listened to so far has been male voices, which are very often trying to push up to the top limits of their range, and now suddenly I'm hearing a woman's voice which is sitting deep in the range, and well, she's obviously an alto anyway, but there's no desire. It's like she has no need to try to push to the top of her range at all. It's something that's kind of different than the sound that I've gotten used to hearing. And then the reason I stopped it right here in this moment is because when the guitar first came in with those high notes, for a moment I thought it was her voice. And I was thinking, wait, now she's gone up into a higher range. But then I realized, no, that's the guitar. But it was such a such a vocal sound from the guitar that it really took me a moment to distinguish between her voice and then the guitar in that moment. So I'm going to back up just a little bit here because that's why I stopped it, and then we'll listen to this bit, hopefully unbroken.
Recreation, she intoxicated by thee. She has the slow sensation that he is levitating with she.
Interesting lyrics.
I spin so ceaselessly till I lose my sense of gravity. Dancing barefoot in midair I spin. Some strange music draws me in, makes me come on like some heroin. Oh God, I fell for you.
Light of our life sweats in the dark like a face. The mystery of childbirth, childhood itself, grave visitations. What is it that calls us? Why must we pray screaming? Why must not death be redefined? We shut our eyes, we stretch out our arms and whirl on a pane of glass. An asphyxiation, a fix on anything. The line of life, the limb of tree, the hands of he, and the promise that she is blessed among women.
That was really interesting. So, I'm caught up in this poetry of the lyrics. And okay, I know it was inspired by some love story tragic ending, but I feel like this is not about a tragedy. I feel like it is it's very intimate, but at the same time the lyrics are musical in themselves. They are very poetic. It's funny because I feel like they're set in such a kind of a, shall I say, a recitation type manner with the music. And I can't decide if I like it or not right this moment, because I feel like they could be treated in a much more, shall I say, French musical manner, with a lot more intimacy expressed through the music itself. But to have them set this way, it kind of has a unique effect of making us become hyper aware of them, of the intimacy of the lyrics, simply because the music doesn't really try to be intimate itself. The music is just kind of motoring along, charging along, doing its thing. Well, the voice is unique. It's rather deep and has its own quality, but it's not even working very hard to be deeply emotionally expressive either. It's just the natural quality of the voice that is shining through. Kind of undressed, naked voice that is has no pretense about it. It's just what it is, and that's it. And in a way, I find that appealing, because here we are with this set of lyrics that is so intimately poetic, and yet the music that it is set to isn't trying very hard, and we could maybe fault that if we wanted to. But on the other hand, we could take that as being incredibly beautiful in its own way, because if we're dealing with a story of love and intimacy, then there is this sort of matter-of-fact acceptance and naturalness about the whole relationship that is built into it. And maybe we could say that the music is taking that side of it and really putting it in our face as, let's not make this into some romantic storybook story. Let's take it as a real life event that is lived and happens and is perfectly natural for the people in this relationship. It's a very interesting way of setting it, and maybe I wouldn't have thought to do it that way myself, but I kind of enjoy that little pull between the two, the music and the lyrics, where they're kind of tugging at opposite sides of the picture a bit. But at the same time, if we think about it, they are complementing each other. I want to go back and listen again to parts of this, because I was just trying to take it in and understand how it's all fitting together, and I didn't really stop and say a lot along the way, but I do want to share some thoughts with you along the way. So I'm going to go back and start, and the first thing I want to say, even before I begin, is that this song also really didn't give us much of a setup, a preparation. It was just a couple bars of barely getting started, and then boom, we're right into the music. There wasn't a sort of build-up point, an introduction, or any of the polish that often happens when we're creating a piece of music and we want to set it all nicely in this framework. This is very raw in that respect, which is also kind of cool, because again, we're just diving into the raw elements of love and relationship and connection here in a very unceremonious manner. It's very interesting to me in that way. So let's start again. And here we go. The she and the thee, he and she. It's very circular in a way. It's like you don't know where one ends and the other begins, because of course in a relationship that close, it's kind of hard to figure out where one ends and one begins. out if I like this music or not. It's so simplistic.
She is the essence of thee. She is
This voice here
concentrating on he.
has its own appeal.
Chosen she. I go and I don't know why. I spend so ceaselessly. Could it be he's taken over me? I'm dancing barefoot.
Kind of like this idea of dancing barefoot.
Some strange music draws me in, makes me come on like some heroin.
Definitely some sexual references and allusions in the lyrics. Naturally, of course, because it's a very intimate connection that's being described here. What's this guitar?
She is
And suddenly the
recreation.
voice, yeah. That's a spot that I like in the music a lot. If you listen to this music, you'll notice that really musically, there's not a lot happening. It's motoring along. Chunk, 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 chunk. The percussion is doing its thing. Dum, bum, 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 bum. The guitars are filling their stuff. There are the different layers, but it's all pretty much the same all the way through. Not even a lot of harmonic change. There's nothing really happening in the music. Every once in a while, there's an answer or a little insertion of something, some instrumental answer to a phrase which the voice has sung. But it's really not doing much. Again, that's not a criticism. It's simply an observation of what it is that we're hearing here and how it might play into the end product, the experience that we have with it. So when we get to this moment where, at least I think it's the guitar, as it's going up higher, I begin to wonder, is this a synthesized sound of a keyboard? But I do think it's a guitar. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But it goes up higher and higher and higher till it almost sounds like a piccolo. And it's up there in that little shrill, squeaky range. And then, as we have been carried up to that point where it's so high, that's the moment at which the voice enters deep down here again. She. And it's this wonderful contrast and musical spaciousness between the high and the low, which gives us a rare moment in this piece of music of sonic depth and separation, distance. It's kind of interesting, again, thinking of the lyrics, saying it comes a little bit later where can't figure out where one begins and the other ends, or something like that. And then here in this moment, suddenly we have this separation, the high and the low. Most of the music is just monotone style. I don't mean that it's purely monotone, but it's kind of that monotone style where we don't really think much about it. We could have it on in the background. We could be driving down the road to it. We could be washing dishes to it. We could be, it's this sort of ordinary sounding music. And the more I think about it, the more I think that it's kind of special in its own way. Because I love the idea of this kind of very, very close relationship being such an ordinary part of life. for those in the relationship. It's nothing that is an outstanding moment in their experience. It's part of the world they live in, and it's who they are, where it's ordinary. And at the same time, it's so special. And I guess I like that. So let's listen to this guitar again and notice that moment where suddenly we have a bit of height and a bit of depth. And it's a great moment of contrast.
She is recreation, she intoxicated by thee. She has the slow sensation that he
It's very
is
sexy,
levitating with
intimate lyrics set against this ordinary type of music.
Till I lose my sense of gravity. I'm dancing barefoot.
This moment of freedom here.
Some strange music draws me in, makes me come on like some heroin. Oh God, I fell for you.
Light of our legs sweats in the dark like a face.
Now this is where it gets really interesting,
Mystery of
because suddenly we have some layers where the voice is singing, and then at the same time there's the counter spoken word element underneath. I wouldn't quite call it counterpoint, but we've got this layering happening in the vocals here. Let's pay attention to that a bit.
Oh God, I fell for you.
Light of our legs sweats in the dark like a face. The mystery of childbirth, childhood itself, grave visitations. What is it that calls us? Why must we pray screaming? Why must not death be redefined? We shut our eyes, we stretch out our arms and whirl in a pane of glass. An asphyxiation, a fix on anything. The line of life, the limb of a tree, the hands of he, and the promise that she is blessed among women.
It's so interesting the way it ends with this phrase, blessed among women, because of course that's a very biblical phrase. And I was listening, so we have this repeated vocal part, bum 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 bum, oh God, I fell for you, over and over and over. That's what we hear melodically. It's not a huge melodical thing, it's just a little motif. But then underneath that there's this spoken word element, which is reciting all the rest of the lyrics continuously. And it's so funny, I didn't pick this up the first time around, but just now I did. I was thinking, well, how many of you have been in a very, very traditional church? Let's say an Eastern Orthodox church, or some church of that type, where their traditional service is so ancient that they still have these long recitations of chanted verses, and it's long, it goes on forever, and they chant in this sort of monotone. It's very rhythmic, and there's a slight bit of pitch variation. And in this last time I was just listening here, I was thinking, that almost sounds like the sort of thing you'd hear in an Orthodox church. And it suddenly struck me that this is setting up this religious element, almost making this relationship incredibly sacred by mimicking that type of chanting quality here. So unique and creative. Now, I don't know if she intended. Did Patti Smith ever attend a church like that or a religious service like that? Of course, there are other religions which also use that kind of chanting because it's a very ancient tradition going way back to when, we didn't have microphones and we had long religious services which people listened to for hours, and the whoever is speaking or intoning has to have some way of having their voice carry and continue through this whole long endurance test. It's basically what it is for the voice, and that's how that chant style developed, because it's much easier on the voice than just standing there and speaking in the modern way that we think of modern religious services. We've gone through this whole song, and it has felt very ordinary in the music, in the style. At the same time, we have these incredibly beautifully poetic ideas and concepts just weaving and interchanging between in the lyrics. And then we get to the end, and suddenly, if we take this perspective, which again, I don't know if she did intentionally thinking of it religiously, but to me, it sounds unmistakably religious. Essentially, this song is saying that this love experience is a sacred experience, a religious experience, a spiritual experience. Whether or not you're a religious person, you understand what I'm saying, because she's not trying to say it belongs to Christianity or it belongs to a God. No, she's saying this experience itself is its own religion, its own sacred, its own spiritual element, life, world. And I think that's pretty cool. It suddenly ties everything together that we came through in this song, so that we're no longer just sweeping the floor or washing dishes with the music. Suddenly, everything becomes much more, should we say, enlightening? Because that is what happens in a union like this. And I guess I feel like, having just noticed that, I feel like the climax of the entire piece of music is this ending. And just to wrap up, I want to listen to it one more time here in this little ending, because I think that's really unique and special.
Oh God, I fell for you.
The light of our legs sweats in the dark like a face. The mystery of childbirth, childhood itself, grave visitations. What is it that caused us? Why must we pray screaming? Why must not death be redefined? We shut our eyes, we stretch out our arms and whirl on a pane of glass. An asphyxiation, a fix on anything. The line of life, the limb of the tree, the hands of he, and the promise that she is blessed among women.
Promises. Yes, it has a very religious overtone there. It took me a little bit to get into this song and to understand it. You saw me trying to work my way through it the first time and even the second time, and I was trying to understand what is special, what is unique about this particular piece of music. And it took me all the way until the ending the second time around before suddenly it clicked in my mind and I was able to appreciate it more fully. Now, should we call this a piece of music that is a revelation? Perhaps we could, if we're going to stick with the religious terminology, because obviously it is trying to express and convey and open our experience and our minds to this concept of what love is and what love can be. And so we could say that it is functioning as a revelatory piece of music. And I think that we should really appreciate that element of it. And as I said, there are a lot of sexual allusions within the lyrics, which we could get all caught up and wrapped up in. But at the same time, I feel like it's not just wanting us to dwell there. It's wanting us to think about the deeper nature of love, which is this very, we could say, spiritual thing between lovers. And that is what makes, of course, the sexual element to be a sort of uplifting, enlightening experience as this music portrays it to be. And so I think that I kind of appreciate the message of this song, and I hope that you do too. I am curious to hear your thoughts and feedback on my impressions of it, and I will see you next time.